So welcome to this video everybody. In this one I want to talk about running out of stock and why it might not actually be as bad for your business as some people will make it out to be. Now the reason this video has been kind of spurred on more than I already wanted to do it was that I had a conversation with someone in the Facebook group yesterday about it where they told me to look at a course. So I went in this course, had a look at it, and in the launching section of this course the person stated, and I literally quote here, that if you run out of stock, you may as well start again. And what he meant by that is that you should actually remove all of your inventory from Amazon, relabel it yourself, create a new listing, ship it back in again to start if you run out of stock, because launching again after running out of stock is just as good as launching all over again. And I could not believe what I was hearing. I thought it was the most stupid thing I've ever heard in my entire life. And I've got proof to back up everything I'm going to talk about in this video with my own examples from my own products. So going to be very, very interesting one here. Now, I'm not going to talk anymore about the course, who it's from or what it is, but anyone who's in the group can read what I've said before and they'll know which course I was talking about. Without any further ado, let's get straight into the PowerPoint and the evidence that I have to back up my claims. So before we go ahead and get into the evidence I have for running out of stock and what happens when you come back into stock after that happening, I first want to give some background on the scenario of someone running out of stock, why it's so important, why it's such a controversial topic, and why there's so much misinformation about what happens when you run out of stock. So first thing I want to cover is kind of the perspective of someone who's just new to selling on Amazon. So put yourself in their shoes, that your product has just got to Amazon, and I'm sure we all know that when your product first gets there, you need to launch that product to page one. Now, one of the biggest factors of a launch and one of the biggest factors in ranking in general is sales. So your main goal is to drive sales, to rank higher on the pages on Amazon so that you get more sales. Now, if you stop getting sales, for example, if you run out of stock, your rank is going to drop again because your sales per day would have dropped from say 10, 15, 20 to 0. And Amazon isn't going to keep a product with 0 sales on the first page, so your ranking is going to start to drop as you run out of stock. Now, in addition to your rank dropping because you have no sales, I also believe your rank is going to drop because you've run out of stock, and Amazon can tell that, and they don't want to show a product to customers that isn't in stock because it provides a negative customer experience. If you see a product that you really want, you're ready to buy it, you click on it, and it says out of stock, that just leads to a negative customer experience, showing someone something that they basically can't have. So I believe that the combination of A, running out of stock and not getting any sales, and B, just being out of stock and Amazon seeing that, is going to reduce your sales rank, is going to reduce your organic position on page one, and just all the hard work you've put into launching your product in the first place is going to be undone as your ranking on Amazon drops. Now, this is where the controversy and kind of bad opinions of running out of stock come in, that people believe that once you run out of stock, when you come back in again, you have to full on relaunch your product again as if you had just got that product to Amazon, because you're basically starting from 0 again. The sales you made before mean absolutely nothing. You run out of stock, you need to relaunch it to page one, just like you did in the first place, and this isn't the case, and that is exactly what the course that I talked about at the beginning of this video said, that if you run out of stock, you may as well start over again because it's going to be just as hard for you to get to page one. You may as well start with a new listing. If you had any bad reviews or anything like that, start with a new listing and start fresh, which is just completely wrong. It makes no sense at all, and again, I have evidence to back this up. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you that evidence right now as to what happens when you run out of stock with one of my own products. Okay, so on the left here, you can see this kind of squiggly line going across the page. That is my ranking. Now at the bottom here, you can see this is top position 1 and the date that happened, and the lowest position of 164 and when that happened. So at the very far left of this chart, you can see that I was juggling between position 1 and position around 5 or 6 for one of my main keywords for a good couple of months, from September to the end of November. I was basically the top spot for one of my main keywords. I temporarily ran out of stock, and then I just had a few units kind of dribbling in, like hardly anything, and that's why it's so erratic in the middle. So I guess in total, really, I was out of stock properly from November to around July. Now, this was a very long time to be out of stock. There was a lot of issues around this time that I had to change suppliers and all these different factors that caused this, but nonetheless, for a good few months there, I was completely out of stock, apart from a few kind of dribbling in, a few returns in the middle, which didn't have much effect. But you can see that even after being out of stock completely, from the kind of middle of March kind of time to the start of July, that after coming in stock, after all of those months out, the second I come back in stock, my rank restores almost to what it was back in November. It didn't take any time, didn't take any harsh launch, didn't take any of that. I almost immediately returned back to my previous ranking. And that is the kind of the true reflection of what happens when you run out of stock. Now, there are a few factors that affect how fast this will happen, but the main thing of this video is just to tell you that running out of stock is not the end of the world. But like I said a minute ago, there are factors that will affect this, which I want to come on to now. So the rate at which your rank returns will depend on two main factors in my opinion. The first being the length of your sales history, which we'll come back to, and the length of time you are out of stock. So first of all, the length of your sales history. If you've sold, I don't know, say for example 100 units in the past and you got to position 1 for basically 2-3 days and then you run out of stock, I don't think your rank is going to get back to that place again immediately when you run out of stock and come back in again. Compared to someone who sold thousands and thousands of units at that top position, they have enough sales history to prove to Amazon that they should be back in that spot. They have enough sales history to prove that customers want their product. And I think their rank is going to return much faster because they have that rapport with Amazon to show that their product is good. So I think that's going to be a big factor, is the length of your sales history. Now, even if you have a small length of sales history, say you've only sold 150, 200, 250 units, it's still not going to be like launching that product all over again. When you come back in stock after already selling 200, 250, or even a smaller amount, Amazon is still going to remember that smaller sales history. It's going to be a lot easier for you to rank second time round, and you'll even notice that maybe some of like your less popular keywords, you'll come back to the first page almost instantly, even with a smaller sales history. So that is the first point I think is very important, is your sales history. The second point is the length of time you're out of stock. So in the last example, you could see that I was out of stock for a very, very long period of time, which to me, it didn't have much of an effect because I'd sold quite a few units by that point. So I returned to my basically first page ranking and top 3 position almost immediately. But for other people, if you've only sold 100, 200 units and you're out of stock for 3, 4, 5 months, then I think it is going to be harder for you to re-rank after that. Not as hard as launching a new product, but it's not going to be as immediate as the example that I've just shown you. So take those two factors into account when you come back into stock, and just understand that it might be a bit easier or harder based on your past history. But just know that it is not going to be as hard as launching a new product in any scenario, in my opinion. If you have any type of sales history at all, and even if you've been out of stock for 6 months plus, I think it's going to be easier for you to relaunch than launching a new product in some circumstances. Now, if you're talking that you've listed a product, you've sold 5 units, and then you was out of stock for an entire year and did absolutely nothing in that time, in that scenario, it may be easier for you just to start a new listing and do it that way. But apart from those really, really extenuating circumstances, in my opinion, that's a terrible idea, and you should not follow anyone who tells you to do that, basically. So with that said, should you really worry about running out of stock? In my opinion, no, I don't think it's a thing to worry about. And if anything, I think it's something that most people will experience, and something I almost incentivize most people to experience in a way. And I'm going to talk about this in one of my next videos about ordering stock and things like that. But instead of overextending yourself and ordering hundreds and hundreds of units for your first order, if you just order 200, 250 and test out the market, that's a great place to start. You may run out of stock, but in my opinion, like I said in this video, it's not the worst thing in the world to happen. You can regain that rank pretty quickly if you're smart about it, if you know what you're doing. So it's much better to run out of stock and take that hit than to overextend yourself by hundreds and hundreds of units if something goes wrong, and then you're in a really, really tough spot. So I think it's something that most people are going to experience. It's not a bad thing, and until you can get loads and loads of cash behind you to keep that cash flow going and to keep orders coming in, everyone's going to experience it. But like I've shown in this video, it's really not a bad thing to happen. So with all that said, I hope you've enjoyed the video, guys. Please like, comment, subscribe, all of that stuff if you've enjoyed it, and I'll see you in the next one.